big game breakdown. Thanks to Intertop Sportsbook, 22 years online, sign up, deposit, and win. Dodgers and Cubbies, Maeda against Chatwood. Maeda near the bottom in ROI, down almost 7 units. Dodgers are road favorites. They survived. They played horrible ball. They were 16-26 at one point. They're only a game and a half back of the Diamondbacks. 8.5 the total. Chatwood for the Cubbies. So big 3-game set. They've won 7 out of 10. Won the series against the Giants. Did lose yesterday where they couldn't get much going offensively, but they turned it around. They're hanging in there, and they are the favorites now to win the NL West.
As they should be. I mean, a very rough start for LA, but the key to them was that nobody else pulled away in that division. The Giants played mediocre baseball. Arizona got off to that hot start and then went ice cold. Colorado hasn't played particularly well. San Diego's been the toughest competition in terms of hot teams in that division in recent weeks. So the Dodgers able to survive that slow start without really getting slapped around. And now in position, obviously, to make some noise in a division that they've won. What are they, 5 straight years? They've been in the playoffs. I don't remember if they won the division every year. I don't think they have. But it's all been, I shouldn't say it's all been offense, but it's largely been about the lineup. Prior to last night, 7.15 runs per game in the month of June. That's impressive. An MLB best 34 home runs in the first 13 games. They've won 7 of their last 10, even after last night's loss. And we're talking about a team that, yeah, homer happy, but it's not just homer happy. They've been hitting the baseball effectively. Yesterday, they were really shut down. Dave Roberts after the game. I don't think we were over swinging. I don't think we're sitting back and just trying to slug. We're trying to take good swings. And today the balls didn't go out of the ballpark. But when you look at this Dodgers lineup and you see the form that they're in, it's not hard to make a case for LA to score some runs against Tyler Chatwood, who's been very, very, very rough so far this season because he can't throw strikes, Pauly. This guy can't throw
3
strikes.
and 5 with a 4.12. He hasn't won a game since May 11th. Last time out against Milwaukee, 4 runs in 5 innings. Also checked the status of Baez, who left Sunday night's game after he was hit by a pitch. But Madden, same thing with the Dodgers, right? Madden said no big deal. We went on the road, took 2 out of 3, so we didn't sweep them okay. So they're back after the Sunday night game as well, the rematch of the NLCS. But Chatwood, you're right with the control problems where he can't locate, and that's been a problem. It's just, how about that? What'd they give him, like a $40 million contract in the offseason, Teddy? Look at that. The Cubs are right there at the top of the division, and Darvish is on the disabled list. He's been horrible. And Chatwood's gave him all that money. He's been below average. Guys like Montgomery holding it down in the offense. And remember, before he won this past weekend, Hendricks was #1 with worst ROI.
Yeah, and we look at it, we think about the Cubs, and how did they win the World Series 2 years ago and not win last year? Pitching, and particularly starting pitching. Wasn't anywhere as good last year. So what they do in the offseason? Let's fix the starting pitching problem. Threw a bunch of money at it. Hasn't worked particularly well. Now, what's most interesting to me, there's lots of interesting things, but what's interesting to me is the Madden comments when he's talking about Tyler Chatwood. Okay, over and over again, I've been reading the same type of comments from Madden. Oh, he'll be fine. He's just working it out. Wow, his stuff is nasty. He's almost there. He showed real improvement. And every time, Chatwood comes out the next time and walks another 4 batters and gets into trouble and has a ridiculous pitch count, et cetera, et cetera. I think Madden is trying to get in his head a little bit. I think Chatwood's lost his confidence, and Madden's trying to boost him back up. And the comments aren't for anyone other than Tyler Chatwood. Say, hey, your manager's got your back. That being said, he's not a pitcher I want any part of right now. Now, Kenta Maeda's got his issues too. Maeda had pitched brilliant before hurting his hip. Then he came back. He only threw 76 pitches. He was hittable in that game against Texas. And again, now he's working his second start back off the DL. But, if you're saying which of these 2 starters do I trust more, the starter on the LA side by a fairly wide margin. Tyler Chatwood, not a pitcher I have any interest in putting my money on unless I'm betting the game over the total.
Very good. Cubs a half game back in the Central. All right, we'll do the Vikings tomorrow. We'll continue with our NFC North previews. We can close it out with the Vikings and the Packers, and I'm high on the Vikings. We'll get to them tomorrow. Now, you had a wild weekend And you're Johnny Chan up there with the glasses on. But so you cashed in the senior. You talked about it Friday in the senior event, and then your buddy made a run as well. So take us through this. First of all, what you did, and the fact that you had a piece of your friend and he made a deep run in the seniors event.
Yeah, it was a hell of a weekend. And honestly, I apologize for not having the Vikings done. This is a sports show, and I'm supposed to have it ready on Monday morning, but we went out and partied last night. It was a fun night, and we're human. That's people don't recognize sometimes. Oh, you're a public figure. You're a sports bettor. Guess what? If I just had a fight with my wife, I might not have a great day that day. If I went out partying and had a crazy weekend at WSOP, I might not be fully focused on the show. People do have lives, is what I'm saying. And this weekend was one of the fun weekends of a lifetime. So, senior event, $1,000 buy-in. You have to be 50 or over. I just turned 50 this last year. All right, let's do it. Me and a buddy that I've known, really one of my best friends, and not my best friend from Michigan, from back in the day, lives in Chicago, and he, flies out. We've played other World Series events over the years. He's had a couple of runs into day 2 or day 3 of various events, but never had any cash. I've never cashed in a World Series event. So this senior event, we got to do it. And I had some buddies who were playing it, who have played it in recent years. They're like, you got to play in this event. It's the best one. It's the best one. It is the best one, Pauly. It is the best event for a bunch of reasons. First, you're playing against seniors. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to be rude, but the quality of competition is much lower. It's not a little bit lower. It's much lower than you're finding in other tournaments. And it's not just the players and the fatigue level as the day goes on, is significant for the seniors. It's not just that. It's also the style of play. You know how it is in the poker world. You may not if you don't play. But the young guns have dominated. It's a super aggressive style of play. And for a player like me, it's not the best style. It really isn't. I struggle against it. A lot of guys struggle against it. That's why it's the dominant style of play right now. And people are, the best players have adapted an extraordinarily aggressive style. The senior event's not like that, man. It's all right. You play your cards. All right. You play what the table's doing. They're not 5 betting every hand before the flop, or on the flop. It's a much more readable game. I never had a good stack at all. I never really put a dominant run together where I was able to make a bunch of hands in a row. Paul didn't even come close, but was able to hang on and survive and double up. And it got the key thing in so many poker tournaments. Do they call when you need them to fold, or do they fold when you need them to fold? When you want them to call, do they call, or do they, no, I'm not going to pay you off? And day 1, just about every one of those key decisions went in my favor. When I wanted a guy to call, he called. When I wanted a guy to fold, he folded. And there was even the one key hand, and I was all in, and I had an ace-3 and a 3 paired on the board, and a guy showed me his jacks and mucked them. And I stayed alive. Thanks. Hey, thanks for showing. Stayed alive into day 2. Day 2 didn't last long. I went 3 or 4 hours in day 2. I didn't make it to the second break. And I didn't, I kind of, it was a situation where it was the opposite, Paul. It was the opposite of guys that I wanted to, when I wanted guys to call, they would fold. And when I wanted guys to fold, they would call. And part of the, the big key, you have to make moves. You have to take uncontested pots. And I made 4 or 5 moves from uncontested pots, and somebody came over the top of me, and I had to let it down. So then you're short stacked. I get all in, ace king versus jacks, and the jacks held up, and that's the end of my tournament. I cashed out for $2,069. You tip a little bit. My buddy had a percentage of me, so I paid him off, and on to the rail you go. There you are. Hell of a run for Saturday. From Friday into Saturday. But that was only the start of the weekend. That's where it started to get fun. Because then, as you mentioned, my buddy went on a pretty significant run of his own. Like the show? Help us keep the lights on. Please make sure to comment, share, and subscribe to all the Sportsbook Review videos. Thanks so much. Best of luck. Enjoy the game.